Our speakers today, Tai Ogunbekun is a person in long-term recovery from both alcohol use disorder and opioid use disorder. Tai works as a program coordinator at Voices of Hope since October of 2021. Voices of Hope is a nonprofit recovery community center in Lexington. Previously, Tai was a peer support and a SAP counselor for 2 years. Tai works a MARA/AA program and has for nearly 4 years. And then Erin Cox is a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder and will have 5 years of recovery in January. Erin works as a peer support specialist at Voices of Hope and facilitates smart recovery meetings at Shepherd House in Boyle County. Erin has been a peer support at Voices of Hope for 1 year and 6 months. And during her time with Voices of Hope, Erin has participated in a few webinars as a panelist where she has shared her personal and professional expertise with medications for opioid use disorder. So everyone, please welcome our speakers today.
The financial disclosure, the speakers or their significant others do not have any relevant financial relationships to disclose during the past 24 months. Practice gap and educational needs. Maintaining recovery often requires keeping a detailed schedule, active planning, and being accountable to your support network. During the holidays, many people have different schedules, travel, and see new and different people. The changes in schedule, location, and support network may cause triggers or require additional support. By understanding how holidays can impact recovery, people in recovery and people supporting others can plan accordingly during the holidays. Learning objectives. Review information about relapse prevention and how to deal with difficult situations during the holidays. Identify common triggers and cravings during the holidays and review responses to those triggers and cravings. Expected outcomes. After participating in this activity, participants will be able to assess and respond to the challenges that the holidays can present to people in recovery and be aware of strategies that can help avoid return to use during the holiday season.
So looking back at the holidays, we're going to talk just a little bit about the first memories and how holidays did seem as a child, any bad memories and holidays while in active use, and that lack of family connection. So for me personally, growing up, I always had good holidays, but after my dad passed away about 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years this December, the holidays became harder. So for me, I celebrate the holidays with one side of my family while not the other side of my family, just because, you know, it's a toxic environment. So it's better for me to avoid that all around instead of participating and being a part of that, which is a trigger for me. So I have good holidays, but they're still hard for me. What memories do some of you have in recovery that, when thinking about the holidays, are hard for you?
Yeah, so some of my first memories are really great. We used to have this talent show we would do in front of the fireplace, and we would do a dance called the Chicky Chicky Bok Bok. And we would do that like probably from like the age of 3 when we started it to like 10. But there are some bad memories. Like my first holiday in recovery is kind of a bad memory because I was in jail for those 35 days, and that was over Christmas and New Year's. So it was a bad memory, but it was a good memory because it was a time of change and developing myself in recovery. But it's kind of a triggering holiday because it's like you remember that, like my recovery birthday is 12/18 of 2018, and it's like you just remember all that time, like 4 years ago, like where was I and what was I doing? And so it kind of is the culmination of both for me.
Yeah, and I think too, for me also, even today, it's still kind of hard. going home and celebrating the holidays, because I still feel like there's that judgment. Even though I'm in recovery and have been for going on 5 years, it still seems like there's a little bit of judgment coming from some of my family. Like they still kind of hold things against me. I don't know that, and that could be also me just getting inside my head and thinking too much about things.
I'm the same way, Erin. Like on family holidays, I've got close to 5 years in long-term recovery, and I still think that people watch me on the holidays to make sure I'm not getting into purses or, things like that. And I know that it's just my head, and the guilt that I still feel, and, the stuff that I'm still working through. But I was in prison for 4 years. And so I celebrated Christmas in prison for 4 years. And my family gave me this like tough love. I heard from nobody the whole time I was there, no letters, no nothing. And so when I got out, I was super glad to be out and back around my family, but I was still super resentful. And I like sometimes, even in these last 5 years, have found myself being like, especially during the holidays, like, why couldn't anybody at least have sent me a Christmas card or, something? And I have to stop myself and reel myself back in and be humble that I am allowed back into my family's homes. And, I have this opportunity to not have to sit in prison anymore for a Christmas and Easter, one of my kids' birthdays.
I can share a little bit. So I'm in long-term recovery, and this last Christmas I celebrate with my wife's family first, and it's all like very movie, like perfect happy Christmas, like Christmas tree, all of that. And then the following day we went to my parents' house, and both of my parents are in active addiction, and so they were very, sloppy and drunk and high. And so it's like you have the juxtaposition of like this perfect, like white Christmas family. And then we go over to my family's house, and it's just very awkward because both my wife and I are in recovery. And so it's weird to do both.
I have some bad and good memories. I'm Caitlin. I'm a recovery coach in Jefferson County. A bad memory would be like my dad not being present, or myself being still out on the streets during active addiction and being alone, basically not having any support, good or bad support. And some good memories would be participating in family gatherings while in recovery, kind of like, family ugly sweater contest, participating in games and stuff with my family, and just being present for myself and my family during the holidays are all good memories.
I have a few to share. I have a lot of good memories from holidays growing up. But upon entering recovery, like after entering recovery, it's been hard to go home and have those same memories. My mom respects my recovery. My sister lives with my mom. She's not in recovery, so it makes it kind of hard, and I feel uncomfortable. And it's hard for me to like stay for long extended periods of time. And then like the family, like my cousins and things like that, they still like drink and things like that, and that's normal to them. And I kind of feel like they don't really respect my recovery, or they look at me as I think that I'm better than them because I don't drink. So it just kind of makes it hard for me, because these are like people that I grew up with, but I have to kind of distance myself from them to make sure that my recovery stays good. That's all I have.
Mine was kind of similar. Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the recovery coach of Jessamine County. Mine was kind of similar to what Tiffany was saying earlier. It's like I still feel like they're watching me and expecting to see like some kind of sign. And we even talked about it on Thanksgiving. They were like, "We're so proud of you and how far you've come," but they still can't get that out of their head to the fear of me relapsing or something. So I feel like they're just always looking for something negative, and they can't help it. I mean, we talked about it and we got it all out there, but they were like, we don't know how long it's going to be there. It's just something we all have to work on. But it does feel awesome this year going into the holidays and getting to participate in all this stuff, ugly sweater day, and be able to buy gifts and be in secret Santas and stuff like that. Like, it's just awesome.
So what is recovery? SAMHSA's version of recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. Recovery means a lot of things to many people. There are many pathways to recovery. There's not a one size fit all type of mindset anymore. That's ever changing and growing. And I love that that's happening. Everything from complete abstinence to medication to harm reduction are widely accepted forms. All recovery pathways are valid. Saying differently is irresponsible and could cost lives. So some principles of effective treatment. No single treatment is appropriate for everyone. Effective treatment attends to multiple needs of the individual. Medications are an important element of treatment for many patients because we're treating an illness, right? Just like heart disease or diabetes. Behavioral therapies and counseling are the most important forms of treatment, and treatment services plans should be modified to meet changing needs.
So long-term recovery perspective. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my long-term recovery. Medication was my pathway. I am on buprenorphine. It saved my life. It's the reason that I am who I am today and that I'm in the place that I am. Without Suboxone, I wouldn't be here. And of course, long-term recovery looks different for all of us. I know Tai shares the same pathway as me. Do you want to talk a little bit about yours, Tai?
Yes. So I do share the same pathway as Erin, buprenorphine. And this Sunday, 4 years ago, I was arrested and taken to Fayette County Jail, where they have an awesome program where if you're pregnant, you were given buprenorphine if you had opiates in your system. So that was introduced to me, and I had never known anything about buprenorphine or done it before or anything like that. But it saved my life, and it saved the life of my twin girls. And from there, like, my life just blossomed. Going to jail definitely saved my life. I was only there for 35 days, but I learned my lesson quick. And I didn't have to go back. So I'm very grateful for that. I ended up getting drug court and in Fayette County, and I completed drug court about 2 years ago. And ever since then, it's just been a roller coaster, but it's been a great roller coaster. Being able to be present in my kids' lives, being able to raise them, being able to be a daughter, someone that my brother and sister call when they need help. It's unimaginable what my life is now versus 4 years ago when I was sitting in a hotel room not knowing what I was going to do for the day because I was just stuck there. But it's been a great path, and I wouldn't have it if I wouldn't have been introduced to medications for opioid use disorder.
So this is just a comparison of the 12-step programs and mutual support programs that are available. Of course, we have AA and NA, which are both 12-step in spirituality. It's abstinence-based. And then we have MARA, which is 12 steps, but it's MOUD accepted. Of course, Smart Recovery, which is that 4-point recovery system, and it welcomes MOUD. And then we have Celebrate Recovery, which is Christ-centered 12-step program and has 8 traditions.
So how do the holidays impact daily life? I know for me right now, for this year anyway, impacted me financially. Um, I do have an older son before my twins, and he's 7 years older. And so I still have that mom guilt from when I was using during his life. And so I'm always trying to make up, you're always trying to make up to your family, to your kids, to your loved ones. And for this year, financially, it kind of has hit me pretty hard. And I would say in daily life, also between finances and just work, trying to figure out how to do all the holiday things and be a good mom and a good wife, and then also be at the workplace 40 hours a week and be present and get your work done. Does anybody else have any ideas on how it impacts our daily life?
Holidays are always a struggle for me in daily life, especially Christmas and birthdays. Like my boys, my youngest son is December 23rd, and my oldest son is January 14th. And so right in the middle, like his birthday, Christmas, Raiden's birthday, the financial stress that comes along with these things. Like you said, I still have a lot of guilt, a lot of mom guilt. I've got both my boys back in my household now by the grace of God. But that also comes with a lot of financial responsibility, having to feed 2 growing boys and make sure they're taken care of. And then the holidays come up, and then it's just like, like it's stressful. It is. It's really stressful. And I find that around the holiday times, especially Christmas, like I have to refocus and really jump into my recovery, because if not, those stressors are going to put me like out there.
So for me, I'm Jenny. I have a lot of anxiety that come around the holidays, along with the stressors. So my older daughter, it's always been a struggle because my family kind of lives all over the state. So when it comes to like breaks and things, it's always like a fight and an argument on who gets what time and how many days do they get and who's going to pick her up and, doing all these things. And, with that, like a lot of times my feelings get overlooked in that I don't get a lot of time with her during the holidays because of that. I can definitely relate to mom guilt. I did that for a long time whenever I first got clean, and I've started to get a lot better with it. She's at that age where she is very, I don't want to say mouthy, but kind of in that respect. So I've tried to reel it in some to try and teach her about, being able to like work for things or work toward things and, not just buying things just because of my guilt. So,
I think that one way the holidays impact me is that I have a vision for how things could look if everyone was healthy and had access to the resources that they need. And for me, the holidays really kind of bring up that feeling of wanting to connect with family members, some of which who like still aren't safe for me. And I am on the end of being I'm the first child to my mother who has an opioid use disorder that she's been really quiet about like either her active use choices, or if she is in treatment, she's not always so clear about what kind of treatment and doesn't realize how supportive I'd like to be. So for me, it's just like reopening the very direct grief of wanting those connections. And then being the oldest, I have been the one that like I forego receiving gifts because I know my mom really struggles to do it for the younger ones and usually have to take on the role of taking care of tasks that she's not capable of doing for my sisters. So brings up a lot of responsibility, a lot of grief and longing.
I really resonate with that, Courtney, because I'm actually the middle child, the oldest of twins, and then my sister is older than me. So technically I'm the middle child, and but I am kind of the oldest because I forego getting gifts because I want to make sure everybody else is taken care of, and I host every year and make sure everybody's taken care of. And you know, this year we're going back to my hometown, and like Jenny was saying, traveling, I'm terrified. I'm basically just going to take somebody with me everywhere I go so that I don't go anywhere that I don't need to be. Not like I want to do anything, or I'm thinking about doing anything, but you know, when you're back in an old place and with old people, things can happen, and you know, you want to be accountable and you want to stay safe. So my tip or trick that I'm using is that I'm taking somebody with me everywhere I go when I'm back in Toledo, just to be safe, be on the safe side, and they'll be driving so that I don't end up somewhere I'm not supposed to be.
Yeah, you can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Danny.
Ty, I missed what you meant when you said she's what we call cheeky in the chat.
Oh, cheeky is just the English form of talking back.
Oh, a daughter. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Someone
Yeah.
who said like they wanted to find another word for mouthy because they.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how can these changes impact recovery? So I know that, you know, talking about financial and just the holidays in general as a whole really impacts our recovery, because I feel like for me, we lose sight of our recovery. You know, we stop focusing so much on our recovery and we're focusing more on the holidays and what we're going to do for our kids and how we're going to be able to do these things for our kids. You know, how are we going to be able to travel to this place and be at this place at this time? What are some other changes or impact to your recovery that you guys have because of the holidays?
So like any kind of holiday because like this year I get to get my daughter for Christmas and for the holiday. So like I know that when I take her home, that when I come back home, that's going to be kind of impactful for me, because that's like a really hard time of year for me, because then I'm at home. She's with my mom where she lives at this time. So, but I know that in the long term that she's going to be back with me, but still through that time, it kind of can be a little depressing, or I've noticed that sometimes I'll get down and oscillate or something like that. So so I got to make sure that I stay connected and talk to my friends and my support group and things like that, because that's the time of year that after the aftermath is whenever it really starts to resonate and hit me.
I struggle because I suffered tragedy around this time of year. So my mother passed away. So it's very triggering for me, and I'd rather not just celebrate this time of year. I'd just rather dip off somewhere and not be seen or heard, where I don't depress the other people around me. But I know that's not what's best for me. So fortunately, I do have a support system at home that kind of pulls me out of that. So.
And Rebecca, I can relate to that because, you know, my dad passed away December 27th. So literally the day after we had celebrated Christmas, you know, he passed away. So the holidays are really tough. But for me, I try to just stay busy, you know, stay focused on the good things like my kids, being able to see my kids, because I haven't, you know, gotten my kids back yet. But, being able to see them and spend time with family that I don't get to see often because, you know, I live 2 hours away from everybody. So, I mean, that helps for me, but it's still hard. You know, it's a depressing holiday because of that.
Yes.
Hi, this is Christy Swan, and I had been listening in, and it's so many things that, you know, some of you all said that, you know, really remind me of the triggers and thoughts and feelings that I've been dealing with and going through my recovery, you know, especially celebrating the holidays with the loss of my mom a year ago, the loss of my older sister, the loss of my son, not being able to go around my family because a lot of them engage in substance use or alcohol use, and I don't. You know, trying to refrain and stay on my recovery, and that makes the holidays a little sadder. But coming here and actually doing my training and with such wonderful people who I already consider friends, you know, that has been a blessing and has been helping a lot because otherwise I probably would be going through and doing a lot of self-isolating if I wasn't, you know, coming here for my trainings and doing this. So
I think one of the biggest impacts that it has, real quick, is just, the rest of the year, you kind of get into a routine of what you do between work and what you do for your recovery and kids and things like that. And the holidays kind of interrupt that routine. And I always find it really difficult to get right back into that routine, after the first of the year, after the holidays are gone.
And I just wanted to kind of speak on what was just said too about, feeling lonely and stuff whenever your family partakes in those things that you have to set boundaries with and stuff like that. And, my first little bit out of institutions and whatnot, my family didn't trust me and I really didn't have a lot of family anyway. But I found family, within recovery that I was spending holidays with rather than going to my family's house and stuff like that. And so you kind of can find a clique that becomes your family. A lot of the people that I work with at Voices, I consider family. I consider my sisters and brothers and that kind of thing. So if I ever do get lonely, as far as my mother passing or not having my dad in my life and things like that, then I will surround myself with my recovery family, and all that other stuff just kind of seems to slip away.
So what was the first holiday in recovery like? My first holiday in recovery, like I said, I was in Fayette County Detention Center, which I was very blessed during my time there because I was pregnant. So I was very taken care of by the other inmates and loved on and given food, extra food and snacks and stuff like that. So it really wasn't a bad holiday. It just was a different holiday that I needed to have in order to appreciate where I was going. Because now this year in comparison, I get to go home and stay in an Airbnb and be with my brother, sister, my mom, and have that holiday back home with hopefully snow on the ground and everything. So I really wouldn't have the appreciation I have now for that if I wouldn't have had a holiday in jail or a holiday alone or something like that. What about you, Erin?
My first holiday in recovery, it was good, but it was weird. I was excited, because I was going home. I was going to see my mom and my sister. and my kids, but it was weird because it was my first holiday in recovery, and I was just self-conscious and insecure about what everybody else around me was thinking, how they were, looking at me. And again, that's just because that's who I am. I get in my head about things like that. But it was good. It was a good holiday. It was the first holiday I had in probably 6 years. I was out of that toxic environment. I was in recovery. I was doing good. I was happy. And so it was just good to be surrounded by the people that I know love me and my kids, being there for them because I hadn't seen them in probably 3 or 4 years. So it was really exciting. Who else would like to share?
My first recovery was also in jail, Jefferson County Jail. It wasn't that great. It was the first time I'd ever been away from my kids, ever. And on top of that, the person that set me up for jail was my brother. So he decided it was a good time to start writing all kinds of nasty letters to me and telling me that he hopes they lose the key where I'm at and they never let me out and things like that. So it wasn't a great holiday. The second holiday was in prison. It was better because I got to see my kids. But hey, I've got 11 years in recovery, and that is, even after losing my mom, that was probably the worst holiday I've ever had.
My first holiday in recovery was in prison, and it was very saddening, again, because I was wondering what my kids were doing, what my family was doing, things like that. But I was also really amazed at how much all those women came together to give each other a good Christmas. I mean, we were doing like secret Santas with canteen and made our own little Christmas trees like on the wall with paper and markers and stuff. So even though it was really sad and I was in my head a lot of the day, it helped because I was surrounded by people who were struggling with the same thing as me, and we were just trying to make the best out of the situation.
My first Christmas in recovery was very lonely. It was very depressing. I didn't have my daughter at that time. I was able to see her, which helped. But you see everybody else with their families and their kids, and it made it worse. I remember somebody gave me I lived in this apartment that I just moved into, and I didn't have anything. But I remember somebody gave me a little 3-foot tree, and I got to see her for a day, and we put it up, and she decorated it, and I was so upset because I didn't have any money to get her anything. And I remember my dad, he had bought her a Barbie dream house, and we stayed up all that night putting it together and everything so it could be there. And it was the only present that she had in the morning, but she was so excited for that. And I always remember that, because even though it was really lonely and it was really hard, being able to see her get so happy and not even care that there was anything else underneath that tree, or that we didn't have all these lights or a big tree or anything. It was just that time with her was that's all she wanted. And in that moment it made me very, very happy.
I would say my first holiday in recovery in home, because a few of the women that have, already spoke up, yeah, my first ones in recovery was in jails, prisons. So my first one, actually home, was kind of stressful because honestly, I would always take something or do something to go around my family to deal with it. So I would have to be sober and with them. So, there was a lot of cigarette breaks. My anxiety was getting high. And, it's kind of like Gary was saying before, I couldn't stay too long. I made an appearance, but I just had to get out of there. But this year, I think it'll be better.
So how can a person in recovery or concerned loved one help address these challenges? So a person in recovery, address concerns or challenges which you fear will arise with your sponsor or support network. Know where meetings are being held and be prepared to just listen and be present. Friends or loved ones, educate yourself if you are not familiar with SUD. Talk to difficult family members about proper boundaries and listen and be present.
Talking with family and having difficult conversations. People in recovery, identify supportive versus unsupportive people, setting boundaries. What can you control? Time and place for difficult or important conversations. What are your goals for the holiday? Listening is important. For friends and loved ones, what can you control? Overcome impulses to fix, snag, and protect. Enabling versus reinforcing behaviors. And listening is important. Any other ideas?
I was just going to say, I really liked what Ty said about taking someone with you. Actually, it was last year. I went and saw my sister, and we had always used together. My uncle went with me to visit her. And I think that was probably the first time in my life, where I actually saw her using in front of me, and I didn't be like, hey, can I have some too? I had somebody with me. So that support really made a big difference for me. And that, and where I was at in my recovery also, but just having somebody supportive was really helpful to me.
So some tips: have a person you can call or have somebody with you. Have an exit plan. I know my first holiday out of jail, I had an exit plan because I just wanted to make sure that if anything happened, if my family, because none of my family has SUD or, alcohol or opiate or anything. I'm the only one that has it. So it wasn't like anybody was going to use in front of me. It was more or less like, difficult conversations, and if people were going to be mean to me, and I needed to have an exit strategy just in case. And I didn't end up using it, but I made sure I had it. And I honestly used like a redirection plan, which is our next tip. And another tip is bring a family or have an ally. Don't fall in with others at risk behavior. Stay home. Do you guys have any tips that you can think of?
I think I said it earlier in the chat. I mean, there's been several times that I've had to just separate myself just respectfully, like, hey, I need to step away for a little bit, like go sit in my car, maybe listen to some guided meditation, smoke some cigarettes, just, chill myself out, talk to my sponsor, and then I can go back in and try it again. And if it happens again, then, of course, I'm going to take myself away from the situation. But just to have like a coping skill such as that, like, hey, I'm going to take a walk around the block, or call your sponsor, go sit in your car, do whatever you need to do, because that's often what I have to do, especially at any family gathering, not just a holiday gathering.
So me and my significant other, we have very large families. And we do kind of a lot of house hopping. Like we have to stop and see this one and this one. And it's kind of like, what's that movie? Is it Four Christmases? Where they're like, okay, we have like a certain word that means we're done, we're leaving. That's it. I've had enough. So we both have like little signs like, okay, we've had enough. It's time to go on to the next one, and just have a plan set up.
something that I do on the holidays is when my family wasn't responding well to abrupt leaves, I would say, hey, I plan on being here around this time to this time. If I'm feeling really good, I'll probably stay longer. If I'm not feeling well, I might leave in an hour so that they're not really shocked and it doesn't create a big conflict. And they know it's pretty flexible. So they've seen me stay for longer. They've seen me leave in a shorter time, but it all has balanced out better when I talk to them up front. And I know sometimes speaking about it up front can create a conflict too, especially until people adjust to that.
So creating a schedule, make a time sensitive plan for your holiday. Begin preparing yourself emotionally and mentally ahead of time, because I know I have to do that. Possibly take a friend or a sponsor with you as your accountability partner, and set an exact time to arrive and leave. Have a car ride waiting outside or close by, and attend a recovery related activity before or after, such as a meeting or special meal.
So harm reduction during the holidays, trying to use privately can be dangerous. If you don't want to use with anyone, you can still use the hotline, never use alone. Try to use your supply for all the day at once, because of privacy concerns can be dangerous. That can also be dangerous. Mixing with other substances, especially alcohol, which is plentiful around the holidays, can be dangerous. Always have Narcan on you. What are some other harm reduction strategies people can think of? Or what are some? Test strips, yes. Having fentanyl test strips, if you're planning on using, that way you know what you're using and you can use appropriately or not use, or whatever you choose. Going to a recovery meeting instead. Make sure to have condoms. Having a positive peer that you can call on standby if possible. I'm not gonna lie, I'm taking my mom with me everywhere I go in Toledo. So like, I'll have her, and honestly, she's taken me on drug runs before, and she's not a person in long-term recovery, but she is going to go with me everywhere I go, so that it's a reminder that I have this person who I cannot let down, and there's no, like, I'm going there sober and I'm leaving sober. That is my objective. And avoiding places that aren't healthy for you. And that Canary app, yes.
What can loved ones do? Remind them that it's normal to feel. Talk with them about their feelings, anxiety, depression, guilt. Talk with other family members. Try to educate, prepare them. Surround them with support. Let them know that you're all glad that they are with family this year. If some family are not okay with the situation, possibly ask them to save it for another day, another conversation. And then let the holidays be a safe time of togetherness.
So what can providers and therapists do? Identify recovery meetings or special meals on holidays. Be mindful of increased stress during holidays for some. Ensuring patients know who to contact in crisis when offices are closed or the regular contact can be on leave. I know my therapist is like, hey, if you email me, I'll get it, and we'll talk about it. I know this is what providers and therapists can do, but as a person in long-term recovery, I contacted my old therapist that's in Toledo and got their crisis lines and got her contact information during the holidays. So I've like multiple therapists I can bounce off of during the holidays.
So I know
Setting
one
goals.
major thing that I struggle with is like, as clinicians, like we also go on break sometimes, right? And you guys run into these boundary issues too, of a patient might really trust me, but not trust necessarily calling sort of the provider on call or someone else. So setting very clear plans with your patients of, hey, if something goes sideways and we need to touch base, how are we going to do that, right? Or what's going to be our backup plan if you're struggling, because that will allow you to still keep those boundaries of your own vacation as a clinician, but we'll make sure that they feel supported as well.
I just had an appointment with my psych provider yesterday, and that's exactly what we talked about, is like how I can make contact with her if I needed her like over the holiday season. So that's really cool. She gave me, like a Google number and an email. And she was like, if you need anything, call or message and I will call you right back. And so I thought that was really cool and like an extra support, for everything too.
I think it's helpful to process feelings around being obligated to be in certain spaces that are unhealthy for you. I think sometimes we feel like we've got to be at a space, we've got to go to the holiday party, we've got to go to, whether it's at work or with our family, and we don't have to. If it's not healthy for us, if it's not safe for us, if it's not a good place for us to land mentally or emotionally, it's okay for us to not go, even if it is an important life event or a holiday.
Right, so this is a case study. Jason has been in recovery for 2 years and hasn't been home for Christmas since being in recovery. He really wants to go because he has nowhere else to spend Christmas and misses his family. Jason knows some family members are in active use and there will also be alcohol there. Jason is conflicted on what he should do because he knows if he goes, he will be triggered, but he also doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. What are some things Jason could do?
Jason could maybe just plan to make an appearance to stop by if he wants to exchange, like drop off his Christmas gifts and receive whatever gifts anybody in the family may have for him, and just basically say he has somewhere else to be and leave.
That's similar to what I was going to say, is maybe take somebody who is a strong support with him just to do that short exchange, make an appearance, give hugs, whatever, and then, go on his way. Or, just let his family know that for me, honesty has always been the best policy. I'm open with my family about how I feel when I'm around them and things. So that might be an option as well. And then find somewhere else to spend your holiday, your friends. I know plenty of times I have taken friends over to my grandparents' house and it's just been me, my friends, and my grandparents, baking and cooking and having Christmas together. And that's been some of the best Christmases that I've had.
So I'm going to practice some self-disclosure and say it's amazing that this is the conversation that we're having today. Every year they hold our holiday party at work, and it still blows my mind that as a hospital system, we have our holiday parties for our leadership in distilleries. And I've been sober for like 13 years now. And if I go around alcohol, I'm going to want to drink. And this year I gave myself permission to just not go because I don't want to spend 2 hours wanting to drink because I'm around it and not drinking. And somebody asked me why I wasn't going. I said, I've been sober for 13 years, but some days I still want to get a drink, or some days I still want to get high. And I feel those feelings more intensely when I'm around people that are getting drunk and high. So I'm not going this year. And they were like, you know what? That's really cool that you're doing that. And we're fully supportive of that.
So case 2, Sabrina has been in recovery for 8 months and is currently on MOUD. Her parents are having a Christmas dinner and Sabrina's kids will be there. She hasn't seen her kids or her parents in 2 years and is excited to see them. Her parents are not supportive of her recovery and do not know that she is on MOUD. She knows that her parents will bring up her recovery, and Sabrina doesn't know how she should approach it. This is very overwhelming for her and a trigger. How should Sabrina approach this with her parents? I agree with Meredith. Bringing an MOUD flyer printout would be very helpful to educate her parents on what MOUD currently is and what it can do, and educate them. You know, health literacy is important not only for people who suffer with OUD, but it's important for all loved ones to know. Jonna, role play with a friend for the anticipated conversation. That is very helpful. Talk about positive experiences since being on MOUD. Talk about successes and people that are successful on MOUD. You know, I know some of my coaches even use me as an example when they're talking to participants and stuff. Like, hey, my boss is on MOUD and she lives just fine. Like it's not trading one drug for another. It's not you know, just like a crutch. Like it's treating an illness just like diabetes or heart disease. Does anybody else have any ideas?
So I'm open about the fact that I am on Suboxone with like my participants and stuff, just because they have a lot of guilt about being on MOUD medications. But as far as like my family goes or certain other people, I personally feel like I'm not obligated to tell them those things. You know what I mean? I mean, if they ever found out and they were like uneducated about it, I would absolutely provide them with the things that they could learn from. But otherwise, you know, I'm not gonna go into a family reunion and start talking about my new blood pressure medicine or anything. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's something that that's individually based, if that makes sense.
I think what Rebecca said in the chat is really important. Explaining that talking about recovery in front of the children is probably not the most important. I mean, is not the most appropriate thing to do. So like taking that offline, taking that to the side when it's just the adults is probably the best thing to do. Asking in advance that our recovery will not be the topic of discussion in front of our children or for the holidays, and for peace, and to enjoy a positive and happy holidays for the entire family. That would be my best advice.